If you've ever read the book, The Go-Giver,
Mm-mm.
or The Go-Giver Sells More, that is really my tactic at this point. A tactic that I've chosen because I know all of them. I know how to do Messenger. I know how to do Facebook groups. I utilize the things that I can in the right way that I want to. And now I'm doing a more aligned marketing strategy that feels good to me and feels life-giving. And so far, it is producing what I'm looking for.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to RD's Thriving in Private Practice, where we share our collective wisdom about building a nutrition practice and get inspired. Joining me today is Leslie Urbas. Leslie is a registered dietitian and personal trainer based in Florida and is passionate about empowering women to embrace their bodies and achieve lasting health and wellness. Tired of the diet culture's negative impact, she's dedicated to helping women break free from self-criticism and discover a sustainable approach to nutrition. She does this through her unique process called the Digestion Code, which uncovers what is happening inside the body to help her clients finally have the life, the health, and the body they want without shame, guilt, or sacrifice. Leslie challenges the industry's misconceptions about healthy eating and weight loss, offering evidence-based guidance on fueling the body for optimal well-being and performance. With a focus on busy lifestyles, she helps women create personalized plans that support their goals and nourish their bodies. Welcome, Leslie.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited you're here. This will be a juicy conversation.
Agreed.
Yeah. So let's start in our usual way and hear about how you started working in private practice, your journey as a dietitian to lead you here in the population you serve.
Great question. I'm going to have to say I really truthfully started as a Beachbody coach, which sounds funny because I'm a dietitian and I was totally against it. I remember my cousin's wife starting it and I was like, this is ridiculous. It's just putting my profession down. Somebody, yet another health coach who just is selling supplements. And that was probably in 2017. And we conceived our daughter probably the weekend before that I had that thought that went through my head. And she was a close relative, so I saw her frequently post. And after I had our daughter in July of 2018 and I went back to work for the Naval Hospital, I just felt constrained. I mean, not to mention that my boss really did not, she admitted to me single-handedly that when I did walk out the door, the department did actually fall, which most people would never admit to, but she didn't decide to learn from me. And then when I came back, she really did put on a lot of rules on things and got really frustrated about me breastfeeding, about me pumping, really a stickler of rules. And I just thought to myself, there has to really be something better than this for me and my daughter. There was this moment that I was on my way to work. I literally was that mom that got to daycare, handed the baby over and walked out the door. Like I was standing there before they were opened. Like 6:15 they opened. I was typically standing outside by 6:14. And I remember the day Miss Carol and we just missed. Like she had grabbed Lily and I thought she had the bag. She thought I had the bag of, breast milk bottles, 6 for the day to make it through the day. And it was missed and it landed on the floor. And I just looked and one of the bottles, only one of them was open. And she just looked at me knowing that I was in terror of like being late because we had had many chats. And I started to tear up and she was like, Leslie, I promise it'll be okay. Lily never eats the last bottle. We just do it for safety. It is okay. But I remembered thinking at this moment, I am choosing to not have my boss berate me and choosing to be there for my daughter, right? And it really started me down a different world. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to try this Beachbody coaching thing. And I actually looked for a new job and I immediately landed one to work from home, which did not last for long. And at that moment, it was like, okay, I have a choice. I can try to go find yet another job and potentially be confronted in the same place because we still want to have another kid, or I can try to do it on my own. And we were at a place that we were safe enough to do that. So through what I termed as my safety, I had decided to do it on my own. And I literally started with an ad in my homeowners association. Here's a tip for you. If you're a part of a homeowners association, seriously, if you're allowed to post, I just posted, hey, I'm a dietitian and personal trainer. I can help you do both. If you're interested, just message me. And literally 4 days later, I had like 5 paying clients and I was making $2,000 a week. And just from a post, which to me was crazy. I didn't know that that was possible. And that's really how it got started, was from me choosing that I wanted to be able to choose my children instead of always remain in a world where I couldn't. And I know that other jobs could have done that, and I could have waited. My boss would have only been there for 2 years. But that was really my breaking point of having that breakdown of not knowing that I could choose my daughter at that moment. So.
Yeah. So your mom instincts really kicked in and showed you that your current position was not affording you the ability to really be there for your daughter, and that you were being required to prioritize the job, and that just felt bad, it sounds like. Yeah,
Completely. And from another mother, which I never really understood. Everybody was like, really? And she was a mother to 2 other babies? And I was like, yeah. I was like, you would think that would be understandable. I was like, I know, it didn't resonate. We had a conversation many years later and sorted it all out. And I'm not upset, and neither is she. And I'm thankful for what actually occurred, or I wouldn't be here. So.
Yeah. And it prompted you to take that risk to post in your homeowners association. You got your clients. You started feeling like, okay, this could work. And so what was your next step? You've got your 5 paying clients. And what did you do?
I think I did what most people do and freak out. Like, how did that work?
Yeah.
That's not how it's supposed to work, right? It's not supposed to be that easy. And I really set myself in a spiral. 2 of the people in my neighborhood actually were getting ready to move. So they only worked with me for 6 months. One of them got injured, and then I was down to about $300 or $400 a week, which was still good for me. You know, I wasn't really trying to have the income. It was doing that. And that's when I decided, okay, I've got to go further than just my neighborhood. I have to look into this, right? And me not having any sort of business background whatsoever, I actually found a dietitian, maybe even through this group. I don't think she's a dietitian anymore, but she helped me to start ads. I don't know, that's where I went to first. If I have ads, I can do it. But then as soon as I got people to come in through the ads, I was like, no, I don't know how to make a sales call, right? So then I had to have somebody help me to make a sales call. And I learned the scripts and I did the things. And, you know, my first year in business, I was profitable, and that's what I was most proud of. And I really think what really started to help me and continues to help me now is that I understood that my thinking was actually what I had to change the most. I had an amazing, I'd love to say that I hired the right sales coach, but I seem to have this like cute little thing of, she actually attracted me to hire the coach that she learned from, and I hired him. And this was the beginning of 2020. So it was the end of 2019 when I started working with her, because I quit my job in 2019. I started working with her about 5 or 6 months later. And then in maybe February, I started working with the sales coach. And I think as soon as March hit, he was like, okay, this thing is not going away. Your business is not going to thrive. Don't do high ticket sales. You're not going to make it. Just cut all ties and whatever. I was like, okay, I don't know a lot about the coaching industry. However, I'm assuming that's not the way you're supposed to coach me. So I would like some money back, and I would like to part ways. And he completely agreed, and I left him. And maybe a month later, I met somebody online, and she attracted me to this coach who was doing this 5-day sales training. My first ever, people launching all the time, my first ever live launch. And he was wonderful. And I still think that every skill he taught me is pertinent today. I was so thankful to get in when I did. It was the first launch, so it was like a beta program, super cheap, right? And I can still go back to those things, and I'm still doing some of those things that help me push in my business. But in November of 2019, I said, Sean, I don't need more tactics. It's this. It's literally my brain, and I understand that. And so that really helped me to deep dive into understanding more about thinking, and that really helped me to see more of the digestion codes, because I was able to see that what I did in my own health used all of these rules. I just didn't know what I was doing back then. So.
Okay. I would love to hear a little bit about your digestion code, but before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit more about what kinds of thought patterns really needed changing for you? Maybe how you were thinking before and then how you think now, or that process. What that look like?
Yeah, so I would truthfully say I'm still in it. I hired, I didn't really hire him. His name is David Nagel. He still has the program, but it's a program. It's a 90-day program where you literally speak, you don't speak to him, but there's a call every single day, holidays, weekends, not kidding. I did a whole year with him in the round that I did. And even Christmas, even New Year's, you name it, New Year's Day, you were on this call at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And yes, there were people on there at 6 a.m. Pacific time, believe it or not. And I was barely understanding. I understood in the awareness level that I had, right? I understood what was happening. And I just knew that even though I didn't really get it, that if I stopped, I would stay exactly who I was, which I had pinpointed. I was parents. I was in fear. I was in doubt. I was in worry. I was in scarcity. I was in lack. I was constantly there. And I did his program for a whole year, and I don't know that the good graces from him is that he gives you the recordings, and it's been 3 years. Like I did it 2021, May of 2021 to May of 2022, and I am continuing to listen to the same thing that he played on that day just 3 years ago, and so much awareness. But I'd really say, once I understood more from Bob Proctor and other people that teach, is that I've constantly been coming from the outside, which is exactly how I used to teach diets when I worked in a hospital, right? This is what you need to change, okay? We change our circumstances. We change our circumstances through the diet, right? We change it through, this is your plan now. This is the way you have to eat. So then we change our environment. We tell people, get it out of the house. Don't do it, right? And then we expect to get a different result. But the thing that I was seeing with most of my clients and with myself way back in my 20s when I was struggling with my own weight, 10 pounds up, 10 pounds down, what diet can I try next? How can I use the nutrition for me? I always joked that becoming a dietitian truthfully gave me the disordered eating patterns because I knew too much. But I think truthfully, it's that once I could understand that I was always coming from the outside. Okay, my circumstances are I don't have any sales calls. So now I need to go hound a bunch of people and message them online to get something different. But I'm still in the same state, right? My thoughts are still the same. My feelings in my body are still the same. My actions might be a little bit different. Maybe I'm doing 30 messages a day or 50 messages a day, but I'm not getting any further. And that was my consistent results. So I understood that the thinking had to change. I understood that I had to start with my thought process first and really take my thoughts into my feelings, into my actions to produce a different result. And I think I really got that in 2022. I had a great year in 2022, but just like every one of our clients wants a magic pill, I just didn't want to have to continue to use constant spaced repetition. So I tried to take a magic pill too through a coach. And I wound up right back here with the whole constant spaced repetition. And I think I needed to learn that, to relearn how I can still be a client of my own, just with my business instead of with a diet. So
really fascinating. Yeah, it's an unusual kind of journey that you're describing. Yeah, that's great. But I'm heartened to hear that you continue to seek out more support and help in the form of mentors or coaches, and recognizing that you were not really able to make some of these shifts or see what you needed to see without that support.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about this digestion code. I'm very, very curious about this.
Yeah, so very similarly, as I started to learn, I realized that this is what I was doing with every single one of my clients. I just didn't know. Because truthfully, when I turned 30 years old, 29 really, I'm about to be 39. So I've learned that like the nines are the year of my review of the last decade. People think it's like at 20s, 30s, 40s. It doesn't seem to be for me. I remember thinking it at 19. I totally remember 29, and now I'm about to be 39 this month. And that review has really taken place. And when I was 29, I could look back and I could think in terms of my weight and think, I was able to keep this weight because I was unhappy in life. I had no friends, or I had just moved, or I was in a really big phase in my work, or I didn't have a boyfriend, or I didn't travel a lot with the boyfriend, or he was really into it with a diet kind of thing. So we were like being together on it. And I could see when that happened, the 10 pounds was off. When that was over, the 10 pounds was on, right? And so I saw the cycle that I was truthfully under. And at 30, I thought, okay, it's time to really stop taking the same steps I had always taken, right? I was always the same way as everybody else. Okay, I'm coming to a dietitian, AKA myself, to follow a diet. What do I need to do? My way I really loved back then was counting calories, counting macros. You know, I was a lover of MyFitnessPal before they add all these, cost versions and stuff like that. I mean, I think I was one of the first people on that sucker. I wish I would have, taken stock or something. No, I'm joking. But anyway, so that was how I did it. And I thought, this isn't a life. Like, I have to portion control everything. I have to pay attention to every single thing that I'm eating. I have to put it in this machine. I'm constantly tied to this machine. It just wasn't resonating with me. So that's when I really thought, okay, I have to come from this from a different way. I don't really need to change my environment. At that moment, I actually had bought a house. I was solo in my environment. I had broken up with my boyfriend. I had broken up with my fiance. It was just me and a cat. So I was in full control of my environment. I was, in a new space and a place. And that's really when I started to think something else internally has to shift. And so that's really, I would say, when the Digestion Code is born. And truthfully, Digestion Codes to me is what's happening on the inside. What's happening on the inside after you swallow? What's happening on the inside after you binge eat? What's happening on the inside as you're choosing to make a decision to eat the food or not eat the food or berate yourself for the way you look on the scale or things like that? All of those internal things are really what's dictating the next thing, right? So my biggest moment was when I got on the scale one day and it said a good number. I stood off and I just thought, why does this dictate how I feel every week? Because I was really truly only aware once a week. I never did the whole weigh yourself every day thing, never understood the point of it. And I just really thought about it. Why does it dictate? Because when I was a child, people were acknowledged in my family when we got older, when we were, in our teens and 20s, for basically four things. One, oh, did you see how much weight so-and-so lost? Did you see how good she looked? Did you see whatever? Or did you see so-and-so has a boyfriend or is engaged or has kids or whatever? Or, oh, did you hear that so-and-so landed a good job, right? Or did you see how much that job pays? Like, how much money they're making, right? And so I realized every time I stood on that scale, I was replaying in my head the moment of what all of those people I allowed to judge me from a young age were going to say about it. And then there became a day that I was like, they would literally not care at this point because it said the same weight now for 18 weeks. It's unnoticeable. I just look like me. But to me, it meant something different. And that's when I really processed that it was internal. So the Digestion Codes is really 4 pieces that I get into people with. And that is that we do have a code. We're born with the code. We all had the code and it gets washed out of us because it depends. I mean, it can start as early as in utero. I have a really good friend of mine whose mom was an anorexic when she was pregnant with her. That's a part of her digestion code, because her mom didn't eat when she was in utero. So that definitely puts her in a different state, emotional state, physical state, vibration state, stress state, just in utero. And then when we come out, depending on the doctor recommendations at the time, I don't know if you follow Gabor Mate, but he talks about how his mother was told you only feed your baby every 4 hours. And she actually wrote in her journal, I know you're screaming because you want food, but the doctor tells me I can't feed you. And so things like this, depending on how a parent our mother was, how often were we fed? Were we told when we could feed or not feed? Sorry, I'm in an open air office as I get a bug on me. And that plays a part into it. And then as we go into our, going onward, when we go to preschool, when we go to daycare, when we go to kindergarten, we're told when we can eat, when we can't eat. It's too close to dinner. No, you can't have water at your desk. No, you can't go to the bathroom again. You just went. And so we're taught our bodies are dictated by teachers and parents and doctors and nurses and other people outside of us. So we just disconnect and we have no idea what's happening out here. So we reach for all the things on the shelf, right? And so part of the digestion codes is uncovering basically the codes you were born with, how you should eat, when you should eat, the things that are best for you, and really deep diving into that. And then understanding your own personal sabotage patterns, right? So we have our sabotage patterns from either rules we made with our parents, rules we made with teachers, rules we made with other dietitians, rules we made with other diets. We form these sabotage patterns. And then the next thing is really just breaking into some of the trigger points of, were you bullied for your weight? I don't know if you follow, I think her name's Amanda Hansen. I'm pretty positive, the Midlife News. She's fun to watch right now. I'm not in full agreement with everything because now she's going down a nutrition path and, people have given her links. Obviously, if people buy, then she gets kickback, or maybe not. I don't know. That doesn't bother me, but she was promoting some sort of tea that provides clarity. And I'm like, I guess I have the older, right? Because I veer toward and against those things of promoting certain things, just in my own personal preference. But she actually, maybe 2 weeks ago, took a trip to New York and interviewed women of every age, every race, every size, and asked them when the first time was that they learned that that something with their body was wrong. Mm-hmm. And all of them typically were before 10. Didn't matter what race, age, or anything. And then she actually asked the question, are you consciously still holding yourself to this? And 99% said yes. One person consciously said no, because I've dealt with that pattern. I dealt with that thing in the past. So it was very interesting to me to see this, that we're still doing that. I had a podcast episode with somebody the other week where they came on, and she said that one of the things her therapist told her about binge eating was to write down what she was saying to herself before she went and binge ate. And she did, and she found out the word she was saying to herself is what her high school bully used to tell her every single day. And I thought that was pretty interesting to hear as well. So that's piece number 3. And then piece number 4 is really uncovering your own truth and living from that, because that's your internal code. It's where you're unshakable. It's where, you can see the ad that somebody lost 60 pounds in 60 days using some new drug or something and not be, triggered into like, I need to go get that thing. That's the thing I need.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of self-discovery happening here. And what you're describing sounds like acknowledging all the ways that we may have deferred to external sources outside of ourselves. And how do we now bring that more inside and become more embodied and understand all of the history and all of our current habits and behaviors that might lead us down these paths that are keeping us stuck. And and so it sounds like you take them through a pretty formidable journey to figure this out and actually make lasting change.
Exactly. Yeah. And at the current moment, I'm also including them to understand their family's codes, whether their kids are new, babies, or, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to however old they want to be, because that's the next problem women really encounter, right? If I have a family, now how do I do this and do that, right? And how do I give my children, the most secure relationship with food?
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the business model. Do you take insurance? Do you sell packages? How long do you typically work with a specific client? Maybe a little bit on marketing. How can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I do not take insurance. I have considered it multiple times, just not really my forte. I do have my Stripe account set up though, that they can use everything and go through their like Benny dollars or whatever people call those. I don't really know what they're called now. I have no idea. I do that. So there'll be times that I have to sign off on certain things and use my RD number and license number. But that's typically, I'd say that's one in a few. The rest of everybody typically does some sort of program or course with me, or one-to-one. So I sell courses that you pretty much do it yourself. I do group programs where you can do the course and get feedback and get help along the way. And then I do one-to-one courses. And typically, or one-to-one counseling. And typically it ranges anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. I've had clients with me though in my group program now for 2 or 3 years. So it just depends on each person and, how they feel fit to stay within the program. And marketing wise, if you name it, I've probably tried it because of if I could bottle my 20s experience with my weight, I would bottle the first 3 years of my business. Okay, well, I did this and I got a result, but it wasn't exactly the result I wanted. I wanted it bigger, so now I'm going to change. But I probably didn't need to change. I just needed to sit in it longer, just like a typical dieter. And that's what I was doing with my business, is I was constantly trying to try on a new business model. And now, through using many of the tools of myself, I am actually doing more of, and after getting myself kicked off of LinkedIn for whatever reason, we're not really sure why. I know, right? How do you get yourself kicked off of LinkedIn? We don't really know. I have an expert that's out there trying to reach the person that could help me, because I never got a warning, or I never did anything wrong. I've never even used a bot or mass messaged or anything. So they're really not sure why, other than I made a truthful post about my experience with my clients in menopause, and somebody got really offended. And I don't know if she took that to the upteenth level. I don't really know. I don't know how LinkedIn works or doesn't work. So that was my one big kicker that was working. So for the past 3 years, I had been very consistent on LinkedIn, doing probably many of the things that the LinkedIn experts, even within this group, would advise you to do. But it obviously that game kind of failed me in the end. So answer to everybody is keep a list, which I did do. I could literally rebuild my LinkedIn today from scratch if I chose to. But I'm going down a little bit different path now. And I'm doing a lot of podcast interviews. I'm doing a lot of interviews with other people. I'm now having people come on my show. I'm doing a lot of, if you've ever read the book, The Go-Giver, or The Go-Giver Sells More, that is really my tactic at this point. A tactic that I've chosen because I know all of them. I know how to do Messenger. I know how to do Facebook groups. I utilize the things that I can in the right way that I want to. And now I'm doing a more aligned marketing strategy that feels good to me and feels life-giving. And so far it is producing what I'm looking for. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So, currently you're using which channels? So LinkedIn is kind of on hold for a while. Which channels are you using right now?
I use Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have an email marketing list as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. And then as far as your SEO strategy, have you noticed any changes over the past year with the rise of AI and some of the, there's just so much content out there?
Not really, but I'll say I don't have a sound SEO strategy. I know you need one of those. Some of the things that have been things that are like a dietitian's go-to, I have not done. And not because of any reason other than maybe own self-sabotage, or just didn't feel right at the time, or the people that were connecting me to people that could, I just didn't feel connected to them. So that is still in the realm of things to do. What I'm in the process of doing is trademarking digestion codes. So yes, as a brand piece. So that is the next step I'm choosing to take, and then going from there. So
amazing. Yeah. And so we've just got a couple minutes left here. And, I know right now you're working from abroad. And what's that been like for you to kind of navigate? I understand the time zone issue probably is pretty tricky, but you can get used to it. And any other considerations for someone who might want to see clients individually from abroad?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, it's just the best way I would have to say this is you have to understand that we're in private practice. And so that means we get to design our own life. So while some Monday mornings we don't want to work, that may mean we work on a Tuesday evening, right? So it's Tuesday evening, it's 7:30 at night, my time at this moment. And I used to make it mean something like, oh, I'm supposed to have my own schedule. So I'm not supposed to work nights and weekends and holidays. but truthfully, it's all choosing to work when you desire to work, right? That's the freedom. What if the best time for you to work as a parent is on the weekends because your husband's home and so he can take care of the kids for a few hours? Or what if the best time for you to work is from, like Google is our answer, right? Google is open 24/7 because some of those gurus and the people that are behind Google actually go into work at midnight and work during the middle of the night because that's when they have their best brainstorms, right? Like, we have convinced ourselves that the 9 to 5 schedule is the way to be. And if we're an entrepreneur and we're working outside of those hours, we can be in the wrong, because who works Sundays? Who works Saturdays? Who works these days? Why would you choose to do so? You shouldn't be. But why can't we design our own life? And I'd really say that's the best thing. If you're moving overseas, if you're thinking about becoming an expat, if you're thinking about just choosing to live overseas for a little bit and, make your way around places, the truth is that you have to be willing to break the rule, right? You have to set your own rules of, I get to make the way my schedule works.